bulletin. This is a very interesting story because Pakistan's retired army chief, General Raheel Sharif, will now be heading a Saudi Arabia-led 39-nation Islamic military coalition, which has been formed, ironically, to combat terrorism. Well, this has been revealed by the Defence Minister of Pakistan, Khawaja Asif. Well, Asif has admitted that an agreement in this regard was finalised a few days back. Well, the headquarters of the new Saudi Arabia-led coalition is going to be based out of Riyadh. The security analysts are rather skeptical if this coalition will be able to successfully counter the world's most dreaded terror groups, while Rahil Sharif himself supervises terror operations.
ये इस वक्त जो है ना किस शेप में या किस टेनर क्या है उस सारी चीज़ का ये सिलसिला चल रहा था। आपको पता है 34 पर ममालिक का अलायंस बना, वज़ीर आज़म साहब भी वहाँ पे गए थे, एक्सरसाइज एक जॉइंट एक्सरसाइज हुई। अब ये 34 से 39 बन गया, इसमें टर्की भी आ गया, मलेशिया भी आ गया और भी ममालिक आ गए हैं, विच इज़ गुड। आई थिंक सारी उम्मा को, जो उम्मा पे इस वक्त जो इत्तला का वक्त है, सारी उम्मा को विदाउट एनी एक्सेप्शन जो है इसमें होना चाहिए। और मेरा ख्याल है कि ये हमारी अपनी जो स्किज्म हैं या अपने डिफरेंसेस हैं जो हिस्टोरिकल भी हैं, जो ज़्यादा एक्सेंचुएट हो गए हैं अभी पिछले 10, 15, 20 साल के अंदर, उसकी वजह से जो तबाही और बर्बादी जो है बर्मा से लेके फ़लस्तीन तक और हल्ब तक और सीरिया तक, कश्मीरी हो गए, फ़लस्तीन
इकट्ठा होना चाहिए,
ये होना चाहिए।
Let's go, of course, to our External Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, who's joining us with more on this. Geeta, give us details of this agreement of 39-nation Islamic military coalition, which has been formed. Ironically, it seems that they've picked the wrong man to head it. Either, alternatively, someone like Rahil Sharif, given his past, given his history, how can he possibly combat terror?
As somebody heading this coalition has shocked one and many, but also it should not come as a surprise, Meghna, given that we have been yesterday also talking about how important Pakistan is to the Islamic countries and has played a very important role in the OIC, despite the fact that India UAE has seen increasing strengthening of relations with the Crown Prince coming over here as chief guest and the UAE Army attending the Republic Day parade. That does not take away from the fact that Pakistan continues to remain a strategic ally and partner of countries such as UAE and our Saudi Arabia-backed coalition that we're talking about against terrorism. A lot of people have been saying that this is primarily for fighting terrorism and the kind of terrorism that Pakistan has also faced on its own western frontiers, be it the Islamic State or various other extremist groups emanating from the ASPAC region and affecting West Asia as well. But that does not take away from the fact that Rahil Sharif is going to use this coalition to continue Pakistan's agenda against India and using terrorism as an instrument of state policy for Pakistan will find strength with Rahil Sharif in that position. So it is a great worry for us.
Something that he's done even during his tenure as the Army Chief of Pakistan, isn't it? In fact, Brigadier Mahalinga, a defense analyst, joins us. Also, Mohammed Saleh, my colleague. But Brigadier, if I can come to you first, it seems that this anti-terror coalition is doomed even before it takes off.
Yeah, I don't think it is an anti-terror coalition. If you see the entire Middle East scenario, if at all there are any terrorist problem, very serious terrorist problem, it is in Iraq, it is in Syria. And these two countries, along with Iraq, have been excluded from this sort of a coalition. How then would they expect to sort of fight terror? Therefore, to my way of looking, it is more of a sectarian sort of a grouping, primarily meant and targeting, as far as we are concerned, Iraq and other Shia elements. That is one. The second part is the selection of Rahil Sharif. Let's look at, did he fight any war? Did he have anything to do with war fighting? To my way of looking, he did not. What exactly he did was, he called for an operation, Zarb-e-Azb, that is in the northwest frontier province, and that was primarily aimed to shift those militants in that particular area from there to the northern parts of Afghanistan, to Kunduz and other places.
Right.
Therefore, actually what he has been doing, he has been supporting some of the militant groups and creating more of war in Afghanistan and creating problem for India.
But Brigadier, how worried should India be, considering, and Geeta Mohan pointed this out, entire career chart of Rahil Sharif is his anti-India agenda. He's likely to push for that while being part of this coalition as well then.
Yeah, as far as I can see, as at present, Rahil Sharif, or for that matter, this coalition which is being formed in the Middle East, has not much to do with India. And also, we have a buffer state, Iran, which you can see very clearly, the entire coalition is against Iran. That is precisely what is happening. Therefore, as far as I can see, the Saudi Arabia today is a worried country because of, firstly, Pakistan not participating in the operations against Yemen, despite the fact Pakistan had promised support to Saudi Arabia and other GCC countries in case of any requirement of military support. That they didn't do. Secondly, they are also worried about the West trying to pull out of the Middle East. That is the scenario that one is getting. Probably they feel that once in case the military pulls out of, Western military, NATO forces pull out of Middle East, they will need some sort of element to protect themselves. That is the second, third. And the third most important part, which you must understand, the P5+1 agreement with Iran on nuclear issue. That is yet another thing which the Saudi Arabians are quite worried about. And immediately thereafter, if you had noticed, they went in for a defense cooperation with South Korea. Therefore, as far as I can see, it has got nothing very much to do in as far as India is concerned at present.
In fact, let me go across to Mohammed Saleh as well. Brigadier, of course, has been pointing out how exactly the repercussions of this may be felt in India. However, he doesn't really think that it is an anti-India coalition per se. Specifically looking at the participants, it seems to be an anti-Iran coalition. The implications for India in that case.
Absolutely, Meghna. More than an anti-Iraq coalition, this is an anti-Iran coalition, because that is the biggest of the Shia countries. And if you were to look at all the countries that are, a part of this coalition, Iran is very conspicuous by its absence. More than this being an anti-terror coalition, let's actually put it, this has clear sectarian colorings to it, because what we are looking at here is 39 nations which have come together, and you do not have Iran, especially considering that this is called the Islamic Coalition Against Terror. Now, that is point number one. The second point, which a lot of people will actually talk about, is that, when you look at ISIS and the fight against ISIS, the blowback of ISIS terrorism is not necessarily felt by Saudi Arabia. It's more playing out in Syria and in Iraq. And hence, some have even said that ISIS, to a very large extent, has even been propped up by Saudi Arabia in their fight against the Shia crescent, as one would put it. Now, how exactly will this coalition, and especially Rahil Sharif being appointed as a commander-in-chief, will it affect India? That remains to be seen, because for the time being, this coalition is, something that is focusing more on Syria and Iraq rather than on India.
Well, in fact, Geeta, if I can bring you in as well, Brigadier here says that the implications on this, on India per se, may just be limited. Do we expect some kind of a response coming out from the Indian administration?
Well, as of now, there hasn't been an official reaction, given that the Ministry of External Affairs right now is quite busy with our own very important initiative, that's the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. But expect a reaction, Meghna, to the effect of how worried or concerned India could and would be with regards to Pakistan's former army chief taking over, a man who has been in the front of those terror organizations that have attacked India, and certainly is a great worry for India. But having said that, the discussion that we were having, Meghna, regarding the fact that the Saudi coalition does not include Iran is precisely because of the sectarian conflict that we see in West Asia. Saudi Arabia trying to wield its own influence by creating this coalition, but a strong message going across to the regional audience here in the subcontinent, where Pakistan's importance for the Sunni Islamic State continues to remain at topmost priority. And it seems like Pakistan, like we were seeing, using OIC as a leverage point on the issue of Kashmir is something that we've seen and will continue with the kind of major important positions being given to people or to chief army generals, former army generals, who may not have not just used terrorism as an instrument of state policy, but have furthered Pakistan's interests by ensuring that these terror organizations are supported that work against India.
Right. Well, in fact, Brigadier, if I can come to you, were you surprised in the first place? Why was General Raheel Sharif being picked? First of all, by Saudi Arabia to head this coalition. It's rather surprising because first Pakistan said they weren't even consulted before its name was announced that it's going to be part of the coalition.
Oh, yes. You see, the point is that if you recall sometime right in the month of March 2006, right from that time, this proposal to induct Rahil Sharif into this particular coalition has been in sort of talk. The second thing, there was a very major exercise which was held sometime in June, I think, in last year, and it was called Operation Northern Thunder, in which over 2.5 lakh troops, over 20,000 tanks, and 2,500 aircrafts, as also about 500 helicopters took place. And for this particular operation, Rahil Sharif was invited, and so was Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif went and witnessed this particular exercise, which took place for 18 days. So as far as I can see, this particular proposal has been sort of going on. Probably they might have sounded Nawaz Sharif that this particular thing is on, and it may not have come through proper channels, and the government may not have been aware. But this is a thing which has been in the air for quite some time. Therefore, as far as I am concerned, this is not a surprise. And if you may recall in your channel program, I have mentioned that he has a future for that. And I also believe that this proposal to go into Saudi Arabia is one of the reasons why the Pakistan's army did not react to the surgical strike, because the Nawaz Sharif Rahil Sharif did not want to react and get a beating against India, which would go against his employment in Saudi Arabia in this particular post.
So, Geeta, it almost sees, and this employment opportunity, of course, has been given to him on a silver platter by the Pakistan government, which essentially, it seems, has rewarded him for the anti-India agenda that he's been driving through his career.
Well, that's right. The only reason, and one of the major reasons why Raheel Sharif's plans of trying to get an extension were completely scuppered was because of the surgical strikes that were carried out, which did not go down well with Pakistan, the public, while Pakistani government now was trying to convince very hard that there were no such strikes that were carried out. The intelligence failure and the responsibility of such a huge lapse completely fell on the former army chief, General Raheel Sharif. Having said that, Nawaz Sharif had to, in many ways, then accommodate Raheel Sharif because of the kind of clout Raheel Sharif enjoys within the army and within the establishment. And this is the way of accommodation that we're seeing with Saudi Arabia's coalition that excludes important Islamic countries, important countries that represent a real threat within the West Asian world, but nonetheless trying to further their own interests. They've come out with a coalition, and by putting Pakistan's former army chief there, it seems like it is accommodation for Raheel Sharif, as also ensuring that Pakistan's policies and Pakistan gains some credibility internationally in fighting terror. Do not forget how close Saudi Arabia and the United States of America also have been in trying to garner support in the security matters and fighting of ISIS army chief there. What we're seeing certainly is legitimization of Pakistan's position in fight against terror.
Well, Brigadier, so the big question is how do we expect the world to view all of this? She's picked out the points as to how US, of course, has very close ties with Saudi Arabia. Pakistan perhaps is trying to gain more credibility. But Pakistan's role as one of the members which has been not just allowing terrorism to fester, they have been actively encouraging terror against India. So with those kind of antecedents, isn't the world going to wake up? Isn't it time that they unite?
But you see, firstly, I wanted to point out one thing. You said that it is Rahil Sharif being rewarded for anti-India. No, it's not just anti-India. Plus, just have a look at it. The Pakistan has been wanting to establish a proxy government in Afghanistan. The role played by Rahil Sharif in keeping the Afghanistan pot boiling goes to this particular gentleman. And it is a sort of a reward for that. Having said that, as far as the world is concerned, today you must look at the larger picture. The larger picture today is China is with Pakistan, the second largest country. It has gone to the extent of supporting Pakistan in the United Nations and the other international bodies. And secondly, Russia is also probably falling in line. And thirdly, even Iran is falling in line with Pakistan. Therefore, as far as the world is concerned, as I see today, with the Donald Trump coming in, without the world not knowing as to what exactly he is going to do in Middle East as well as with China and Russia, I think their reaction is going to be almost negligible for the time being. But the whole thing will wake up once Donald Trump makes up his mind and comes out.
Once we know exactly where their foreign policy stands, we'll have to wait out for US's reaction on this. But also joining us now, Lieutenant General Rahil Sharif, another defense analyst. Well, General, what do you make of this? Isn't it ironical? Rahil Sharif, apparently the man who is appointed to head a coalition against terror.
Actually, Rahil Sharif had good credentials as the Pakistani army chief. Apart from the fact that we were gunning for him because he was doing terror attacks on India. But let us look at it from Saudi's point of view. Saudi Arabia is pitched against Iran. There is a Sunni versus Shia battle going on in the Middle East. They are pitched against each other in Syria, in Yemen, and maybe in Afghanistan also, as the panelists have said. So, India, it is of no direct concern whether Rahil Sharif is appointed by Saudi Arabia as a security advisor. Saudi Arabia must be having their own reasons. This is an issue for talk between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. We have no direct effect from this.
Well, hopefully there is not going to be any real impact on India with this coalition. It is quite unfortunate, but someone who has been supporting, backing and festering terror against India today is going to be heading a 38-country coalition against terror. But we leave it there. Thank you so much, General Kadian, for joining us, Brigadier Mohammad Saleh, and of course Geeta Mohan for joining us here on the show.